views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
October is National Arts and Humanities Month. It's a time when our country takes a collective recognition of the importance of culture in America. Here on Perspectives, we're featuring artists who are using their form of art to tell Black and African American stories. We have a special multidisciplinary fine artist who's going to join us talking about her journey, her work, and how she's using her art to make a difference. That's coming up next on Perspectives with yours truly, Daren Jaime. We start right now as October is National Arts and Humanities Month.
What's on your mind?
Let 'em know.
What's on your mind? What's on your mind?
Let 'em know. Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, you speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective, which shines a light. Cause it might make a difference in someone else's life.
Make a difference.
What's your perspective?
Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
What's your perspective?
And hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Perspectives. I am Daren Jaime, and we thank you for joining us. And as you always can do, you can watch us every week here on BronxNet Channel 67. If you have Verizon Files, that would be Channel 33, or check us out anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. And of course, you can reach me on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We've got a professional page, Daren C. Jaime, that you can also hear about this show, as well as other inspirational things that are going on. So listen, this guest we have for you today, a very special young lady. She's a multidisciplinary fine artist. She's an entrepreneur, creative director, brand strategist, and a music composer. She's got a lot of things going on. Her visual art has been exhibited across the country and internationally, including here in New York, Cincinnati, Connecticut, Jamaica, Tokyo, London, Paris, and even South Korea. And that's just named a few. Her visual artwork celebrates and reflects the voices of the African American cultural experience. And she also finds time to give back through volunteering as well as mentoring. She's here now to tell us all about her work and much more. We welcome now Sheila Prevost, who is here, and we welcome her to Perspectives. And good to have you.
Thank you, Daren. Good to be here.
Good to have you. So you got a lot going on. I shared in the intro. And how does all get started?
Okay, well, actually it ties back to the early stages of my childhood. And it doesn't feel like a lot to me because it's all part of my life journey and it's my lifestyle. Mm-hmm. So everything just kind of evolved one out of the other. Everything kind of pretty much came out of visual arts. Mm-hmm. My uncle is a visual artist, and that was my first exposure that I'm acknowledging or can recollect of in terms of connecting to art. And I remember he used to always do these magic tricks. I love to tell this story. He used to always do these magic tricks. Mm-hmm. So when the first time I saw him draw, I thought it was a magic trick. And I was like, oh my God, that's like the best magic trick. And then my brother was like, no, he's an artist. It's not a magic trick. Mm-hmm. And I was like, in my head, I just like, that's what I want to do. Once I got my mind set on that, it was nothing that was going to stop me. When I got into like school, about the 4th, 5th grade, up until that point, I started asking for art supplies. Mm-hmm. Like I wanted to create from the moment I saw him do that. And when I got to like about 5th grade, I was reading the Sunday paper after our brunch. My mom would always make us pass the Sunday paper around, make us read the paper. Mm-hmm. And we always wanted to just get to the cartoon section, the funnies. And by the time when I would do that, I would also read the magazines because I loved looking at the visuals. Mm-hmm. And I saw an advertisement which was promoting an opportunity to apply to Art Academy. Now I'm like 10 or something. And school, you learn how to write a letter and all that. I did everything that I needed to do. I filled out the application. I did a test, like just based on what they provided. Mm-hmm. And I submitted everything. My dad was walking us to school and to the bus one day. And I'm like, Pops, can I just drop this in the box? And he was like, sure. I dropped my package in the mailbox. He didn't question anything. My mom didn't know. I just got a phone call one day, and they was like, "We want to, interview your daughter and talk to you about the opportunity." And when they came to our home, they realized I was a kid, but I was accepted into the school. But they said we couldn't, because of your age limit, that we, come back later on down the road.
But it gave you a good feeling because at that stage, just to be accepted, you weren't old enough, but you still accepted.
Yeah, but that made me go even more crazy with the art scene, So meantime, my mom's like directing me to dance because I was really petite and everything. She wanted me to study dance, so she put me in dance ballet, and I hated it, but I went through it because I had no choice.
Things we do for our parents.
But the funny thing about it is my parents took us on orientation through this program, and they had everything, visual arts and music and everything. And I saw the pottery class, and there was nothing in there but adults, but I wanted to be in there. I just really resonated with that. And from that point on, I kept bugging them. By the time I did the academy thing, then they started loosening up a little bit, but they still couldn't believe what they were seeing. Like, they would always challenge me. So I kept creating and pushing myself more and more. Meanwhile, my older siblings were creating visually. So I had that influence. And by the time I got to middle school, I got my first art teacher. And at that point, she pushed me and not pushed me, but inspired me.
Right.
And gave me the awareness that I could turn it into a career. So what happened was I started competing internationally at that stage in my life, and I was winning competitions and stuff like that. I won a competition for DC Comics, and I came in first place. They came to New York. They had this big event for me, and a hotel, and big ceremony, dinner thing.
And talk about that for a minute, because to go from a place where this becomes your dream, and now you're moving into the area of DC Comics, which in this time is really, really major, a major accomplishment. Did you ever think that you would land at that place?
I wasn't thinking like that. I just wanted to create. I didn't even care. Like, even when my teacher presented the opportunity, I was just like, okay. I wasn't like, oh my God, I got to make this happen. It was just, I'm a kid, So I just was happy to be a part of the process.
Right.
So once that happened, I was like, whoa, what? I won, Like, it was like kind of like a surprise. Meantime, at that point, then that was the art was really being formulating in me, right? Like, it's blooming through me. And then I started getting fine-tuning my music appreciation. And I started visualizing, and I didn't know I was visualizing at that stage, but I started visualizing the kind of music I wanted to hear. And I would go on the radio and turn the dial all the way up and down all the time, and I couldn't find what I wanted. So I would put the headphones on and close my eyes, and I said, I'm going to create my own music. So I started doing that, and I would say, this is the string arrangement, it's going to be like this, and the bass is going to be like this, and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, I'm going to do this when I grow up, watch. I'm going to create this. This is the music I'm going to create. So when I got the first opportunity to join a band, I did, and then the rest just kind of kept unfolding for me. Same thing with art school. When I was in middle school, I did a drawing that kind of was like a template of my whole, all the way up to my career, like what was going to happen, and it all happened. Like, I drew, like, okay, I'm going to art school, I'm going to this art school, da-da-da. I went to art and design into Cooper Union, and then into my field.
And we're going to talk a little bit about that field, the field that allows her to do international exhibits and things of that nature. I'm going to take a quick break, come back, talk a little bit more with you about the work that she's doing. Sheila Prevost is our guest, I should say. I said Provost. Prevost is our guest here on Perspective. Stay with us. She's going to share a little bit about her international exhibit, the work that she's doing, fine arts, and then that other business that she's got going. She's got so much going on. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Maybe you can make retirement happen.
After all,
Wow, you made this vacation happen.
Double points with every purchase?
Cleverly merging promotions.
I love it.
Cross-referencing travel sites. And booking all your flights with those...
Vouchers. I got us bumped.
They were like, oh. But now they're like... Aloha. You aced this vacation. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
And welcome back here to Perspectives. Daren Jaime here with you. And yes, we've got a very special guest. She's a multidisciplinary fine artist, creative director. Sheila Prevost, who is our guest here on Perspectives, sharing a little bit about her work. And I want to talk a little about your art, you know, your visual artwork. It really wants to capture the African-American context. So give us a little bit about your work and what you wanted to reflect.
I think it's important to tell our story, and I'd like the work to reflect that, but also just kind of like from where I am in terms of my own perspective, I tie that into the art as well. So I like to kind of bring an urban flair to my work, but while telling our stories, because those are the stories that constantly are overlooked. I think we speak to ourselves in a more classic standpoint, but from an urban standpoint, I just try to bring that to the table.
I want to share a little bit about your artwork, and so I'm going to ask my producer and director to go to the screen and show us a little bit about what we're going to see. Here's a piece right here. So describe it for us.
Well, this is a drawing, actually, a pencil drawing. I just don't really have a title. I just call it the Butterfly Series. I started doing these butterfly series a few years. I started attracting a lot of butterflies into my life. And it's like to the point where they would every day I would see butterflies. So I said, well, maybe I should be drawing them. So I started integrating them into some of my portraits. And that's an urban scene, like brownstone, cobblestone street. It's all from my imagination, and including the guy. And I just try to figure out, like, where can I integrate that butterfly in each photo? So I have a whole series of those that I'm building now. This is very current.
Okay. Let's go to the next one. And the next one we have is this right here.
Oh, well, I like drawing very detailed faces. Like, I like drawing elders a lot. And because the intricacy of the facial expressions and all that life that's moving through it, and it's like it tells a story in itself.
Right.
You know? And this is a Native American male, and I just was attracted to that kind of visual. So I just wanted to, you know, and also I'm always pushing myself to see, like, oh, can I create something like this as well? Like, how realistic can I get? So my stuff varies. I can do some really abstract or really cartoony, then I can go real serious and portrait-like style.
Yeah, you see, like, in the wrinkles, you can definitely tell this is a man with some mileage in his eyes, like really descript. Okay, let's go to the next one.
And that's actually the one from a butterfly series as well. I cut out it's a cropped in shot. On the full shot shows the butterfly in her hair as well.
And I think we got one more.
And this one it's actually, I like to do a lot of details, as you can tell. So this one, I'm always playing with texture, hair texture. It's like I really try to capture that, and that was what my main focus here was. And my brother is a visual artist, and he showed me his technique. This is done with ballpoint pen. He showed me his technique.
This is done with ballpoint pen?
Yeah, he does like real detail with shading and hair, and I was just like hovering over him like, dude, how'd you do that? Like, you gotta show me that. And he said, oh, it's just the way you hold the pen and all of that, and just keep the ink from blotting up. And you know, you just
Off a
gotta
ballpoint
build
pen?
it.
I would never think that.
Yeah. And this one was, you know, the women that are in Cuba that smoke the cigars, the elders.
Yes.
I just like that because when I went to Aruba, and I saw a picture like that, big picture, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. And it was a painting, so then that inspired that one as well.
And so your work
Last
is,
piece.
your work is not just local, it's not national, it's international as well. And so,
I paint too. I didn't include any of my paintings there. So,
right.
Yeah.
But what's it like to have your work reach international status and really to be seen and viewed by others?
It's a really good feeling, and it's also like when you are received by people around the world, when you go to these places, and the way people treat you. I mean, here the interesting thing about it is when I was in school, right before I graduated, I called up a whole bunch of art galleries. You know how when you're like wet behind the ears, and I'm thinking I can get an exhibition because I finished school. I did all this training, and I'm prepared for that. And no one wanted to exhibit my work. I had one exhibition in New York when I was in college, and then in college I had exhibitions. After that, when I went into the professional space, no one wanted to even take the time out to kind of guide me or say, you know, they just like, how many exhibitions have you had? How much does your work go for? And I didn't have any answers that was suitable. So then I just said, okay, I just focused on my design and built out my work there. But I kept creating art, and the art exhibition stuff kind of came to me, and it all happened organically. Just meeting people and getting connected, and then finally meeting curators and people who can really appreciate art, and they just start bringing me into the circles and saying, hey, we want to exhibit your work. So I started exhibiting here locally. Then I met, through my advertising and branding background, I met this guy from Korea. His name is David Eo. And he basically was very instrumental in me getting my work in overseas. And he basically tied me into certain networks and stuff like that. And people were just very welcoming of my work. So I owe a lot to him around that too.
And you have this other business that you do too. You talk about the branding and the advertising component
Yeah, that's
as well.
Bodega 5.
Yeah.
And like I said, you know, I'm a city girl, so I just like that, the whole bodega concept of, you know, just like this local storefront that has pretty much everything you could possibly want, but it's approachable. And I wanted to develop a brand that was approachable to businesses and also to small startups and small businesses and nonprofits. So like most branding advertising agencies, they kind of build these big agencies and they're unattainable for businesses at different levels.
Right.
And I wanted to create something that would be available to people of color as well, you know, who probably didn't have those big budgets, but also work with the bigger, you know, client base.
Right.
And like Sean John and Lexus, but also make the services available to, you know, smaller, newer businesses that don't have those big budgets.
And you bridge that gap, right? Because some of the great work that you've done is Essence, Land Rover, Lexus, Mercedes-Benz, Fashion Week, Sean John. And then at the same time, if you don't have that kind of capital, you don't have the kind of resources, you also take the time to work with people in the community and who just may not have the economic means, but you still make it happen.
HCCI, Image Nation, African Voices, Real Sisters, Blurred City, a lot of businesses that have, you know, we have this this entrepreneurial bloom, right, happening. But these businesses also need these services. And I want to be like the go-to brand, my company to be one of the go-to brands that's going to provide them with the caliber of work that they need to move to the next level. Not just provide creative, but stuff that's going to allow them to compete in the world that they're building their businesses out in whatever industry that they're focusing on.
So what's up next for you?
Well, I'm doing a few things actually. I'm doing some collaborative projects. Of course, I'm still doing my art and my business, but my business, I'm working with Image Nation. They're opening a soul cinema, so I'm going to be rebranding the whole thing.
Wow.
And I'm the creative lead on that, so that's going to be an exciting project. I'm looking forward to starting that soon. And, you know, just what goes on. Musically, I am working on some collaborative projects. Also, I did music for film. I composed for films. I worked with Nadesh Patel. She's a blooming filmmaker right now. And I've worked with her on Dodo TT, created the score for that. And also with Harlem Love, which is by Richard Joseph. And I worked with them and composed the music for that. So, and I have my own EP out. I'm working on some new music of my own that I'm going to release soon.
So the question I ask is, when do you have time to rest? You're going to tell me that when I take a break. I got to take a break because I got a couple minutes left. But when did you get time to rest? We'll find out. We'll come right back right after this.
Well, Thomas, you've got prediabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have prediabetes. Big time.
And we are back here on Perspectives, and our guest, Sheila Prevost, who's our guest here, sharing with us, sharing a little bit about her career. I asked the question before we went to break, how does she have time to even like chill out when you got all these projects going? What do you do?
Well, what I'm creating is relaxing for me too. You know, I mean, even when I'm working under like tight deadlines and I'm multitasking, and people are like, "How do you stay so cool?" And it's like, because I'm doing what I love, you know.
Right.
So I don't know. I find time to sleep because that's important, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to eat, got to sleep. You got to keep yourself fresh so that you can, you know, continue to thrive.
But what do you do? Do you say like, okay, on this day I'm working on this? How do you?
I try to keep myself like working as if, even though like I'm working for my own business, I still try to operate as if I was in corporate America working for someone else. So I set time slots for work, and then I make sure, you know, I have time in the morning. I meditate. I get up in the morning. I do my deep breathing, my meditation, all of that, and set my intentions for my day. And then I try to stay focused on getting tasks done. And then I just take my evenings. And sometimes I create music, sometimes I create art, but those things are like, if I don't have a time frame for anything in particular, I can just do those at my leisure. I might paint 2 hours and then stop and then just try to chill, watch, you know, TV or read and go to bed.
So we talked about what's next. We talked about when it comes to your work, how do you want your work to be regarded in the eyes of people?
I just, at the end of the day, I want people to be able to feel inspired by it, and I want people to also know that it's a process, and it takes, you know, refinement, and it's a work in progress. Everything is always a work in progress. So I'm never finished. I'm never where you know, I mean, I'm content. I'm happy where I am, but I'm not content, put it that way. So I'm always learning, and I'm always keeping my skill set sharp, trying to keep my mind tuned and my finger on the pulse.
And you gave an early example of how you were really impacted, inspired as a youth, family. You were exposed to it early. What advice do I give to, or you give to a young person who may have an interest in this and say, well, you know, I don't know, but, you know, they just need that encouragement to just make that leap?
I think that just go for it. Start playing around. I think everyone is creative, first of all. Everyone's creative. So don't be afraid to open up, and even if you feel like intimidated, just find a space and create that sacred, I call it space for grace. And you just create that space for yourself and keep it intimate and start playing around. Just play and have fun and keep it light.
Yeah. So if people want to find out more about your work, what do they do?
Well, the best way to reach me is I do have a few websites, but I would direct people to Bodega 5, and that's spelled out Bodega, BODEGAFIVE.com.
Why did you choose the name Bodega 5?
Well, for the domain, it's actually Bodega 5. My company is Bodega 5, the number 5, LLC. But the Bodega, that was taken by some people overseas. So I had to spell it out. And I'm like, oh man, but what you gonna do?
Yeah,
Make it work, right?
Well, listen, you make it happen. You make it work. And you are actually, making it work. You got fine arts, you got music and film, you got business, you got Bodega 5. And then you also have time to also help out kids.
Yeah, I do volunteer, I mentor. I just recently worked with the Free Arts NYC program, and they partnered with Brandt Foundation, the Arts Study Center in Greenwich, Connecticut, and we were like 4 different schools from underserved communities, kids in grade school from 5 years old to 12, and we took them for an entire day to an exhibition at the Brandt Foundation in Greenwich, and then we broke the day up into a workshop where we actually created with them as well. And the kid that I was mentoring, he's 8 years old, Adam, I can say his name. I was talking to him and I said, well, have you ever been to an art gallery? Have you ever done art, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Do you have art in school? And he was saying no. And I was like, that's such a disservice, because it's kind of like you have to have all these variables in your life to make you whole.
Right.
It's not
but
just
unfortunately, when you look at school, as I've been saying before, is that arts, sports are some of the first things on the chopping block. However, they become such great careers for a lot of people. I mean,
But not just career. I mean, just for your well-being, your own well-being. I mean, you have to have balance in life. And for your energy to even flow, you need to have a creative expression to partake in, and you have to be physical so your energy can flow. So it's just vital for our health as well. And just the way you live life, the way you engage people, the way you think. And I could see these kids lighting up just from the experience that they had. And a few years ago, I built a playground for kids in Fort Myers. That was a voluntary act. 200 of us came into a project underneath Kaboom, which is a nonprofit organization. They build school playgrounds around the country, and they collaborate with corporations. This particular collaboration included Target, and they gave us a day to build a playground. And I was a creative lead in that space, because you have to have visuals everywhere, right?
Right.
And it was just an awesome experience, but the greatest takeaway was when they ushered the kids, and they did a ribbon cutting ceremony, and it was a big deal, and the media was there, news media, and these kids walking in, just their jaws dropping and just being like it just melts you, to see how much joy you bring when you give back.
Well, Sheila Prevost, you've been a great gift to kids and to the industry, and thank you for sharing and being with us here on Perspectives. You got to come back.
Okay.
And we'll bring you back, talk some more. We'll talk about the arts and all the great work that you're doing. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All righty, Sheila Prevost, our guest here on Perspectives. Look, that about wraps up for this edition of Perspectives. I am Daren Jaime. I want to thank you for watching, and be sure to share your perspective with somebody else, because you just don't know. It might make a difference in somebody else's life. For all of us here on the set of Perspectives, take care. God bless. We'll talk to you real soon.
Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light, because it might make a difference in someone else's life.